Hello and welcome. In today's video, I want to share with you 5 things that really make drawing easier for me. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Susan and I've been drawing every single day for the last 4 years. But I've also been drawing and learning art since I was a little girl. So over the years of learning how to draw and also just improving on my own, I've experimented and tried a lot of different tools, a lot of different things that I truly felt at the time of purchasing them that they're gonna make a difference. But most of the time they just ended up sitting somewhere collecting dust and not really worth it in the end. So perhaps today these 5 things that I share with you is going to help you with your art journey and just make your life a little bit easier overall. Okay, so without further ado, let's start with the first item. The first item is a sketchbook. I truly believe everyone who is trying to improve art should get a sketchbook. I don't recommend getting a sketchbook that you find incredibly beautiful. I know that sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but if you walk into a store and you see one that you really want to get and you think it's so beautiful that you want to treasure it, that you want to just adore it, do not get that one. That one is just gonna sit on your bookshelf collecting dust because you're gonna have this sense of self-judgment. You're gonna feel like my drawing, or I'm not good enough right now and I'm gonna save it for later, or this one particular drawing I need to be sketching somewhere else first, maybe on a scratch piece of paper, and then I'll improve and then put it in. But you never did. So yeah, stay away from sketchbooks that are too pretty, okay? Stay away from sketchbooks that you don't feel like you're good enough for it right now because they're just gonna end up being wasted. So get a sketchbook that you don't find intimidating to complete, okay? So I highly recommend pocket sketchbooks. These are the type of sketchbooks, or the size rather, that I recommend. See, this is my hand, this is how big these sketchbooks are. They are very easy to get through. Okay, so I have completed probably about 10 of these similar size sketchbooks, and the larger ones I probably completed about like less than a handful for sure. But these smaller ones are just, you can carry it with you anywhere, you can go travel with them, you can just throw it in your backpack, they're very light. You just don't feel it takes a lot of effort to complete a single page. So I use these in my daily 20-minute routine videos, and I do draw them every single day. I draw them, complete a new one every single day, because even in my busy schedule, I have 2 children, I also have a startup to run, but I still manage to keep up with this routine. So you know that these are not intimidating, these can be done. And I'm not just saying that, yeah, I recommend these sketchbooks for my own use. These are the Talens Art Creation sketchbooks. I also get my kids to use them, okay? This is my daughter's sketchbook. She is 9 years old right now, and she pretty much completed this whole thing, or close to completing it at least. Now, I don't have permission to share any of her drawings with you. So, okay, maybe just one. I think one is okay. Look how cute that is. Okay. She definitely uses a lot of different mediums. She doesn't just stick to one kind of drawing either. This is probably during Christmas. Just so cute. Anyway, I think it's great that, to keep up with a drawing routine. Okay, don't tell her that I shared this with you. And yeah, my son draws in these sketchbooks as well, and I think they are a great sketchbook. Really cheap as well. They're less than $10 right now, Canadian. Probably cheaper in the US too. Okay, on to the next thing. The next thing is something that is really nice to hold in your hand for your daily drawing routine. I know that sounds like, okay, what makes something easy to hold versus hard to hold? Now I'll give you examples, right? I have very tiny hand. To me, this is something that's hard to hold in my hand, even though I am drawing with this right now because I'm trying to just be more flexible. But I recommend beginners to find something that they like to hold in their hand, because this is something that you're going to be using to practice for a long period of time, right? So you definitely want it to be feel nice in your hand. And if you have bigger hands, then you want something that's, you know, thicker. Maybe something like this, which is, you know, look at the circumference difference between these two pens. This is something that is, you know, the grip is very different compared to something like this. This also feels lighter, right? Or something like this. Some people like these really lightweight ball pens. I personally do not. So let me share with you what I really like, okay? This is a pencil that I really like, and I keep on coming back to it. It's the Pentel GraphGear 1000, and this is made in Japan. The 1000 just means 1,000 yen, so it's a little bit on the pricier side. It's probably about like 10 to 20 Canadian dollars if you were to purchase it. And I don't know, there's something about this pen. It's, first of all, it's a little bit heavier, okay? So it's made of some kind of metal, and the grip has these little notches on them, and it just makes holding it in my hand a lot nicer. So if you can hold something in your hand for a longer period of time, then obviously that's going to make your drawing more effortless, don't you think? Anyway, so that's my tip number 2. I guess I'll couple another one with that, which is if you like to do painting, then I recommend drawing with brush pens, right? So brush pens simulate the painting experience the most. I find whether you're doing watercolor or you're doing acrylic or gouache, it doesn't really matter, right? What kind of tool you like to use when it comes to painting, but most of the time you're going to use some kind of brush, right? So brush pens are probably the closest to that when you're experimenting in your sketchbook. So yeah, highly recommend brush pens as well, and I use these a lot. Number 3, what is that? Let me take a look at my notes. Well, so the third thing that I recommend is a combination, okay? So it's things that's really going to help you sketch better, capture the values better. Kneaded eraser, okay? I try really hard to find a packaging for this, but it actually doesn't really matter, okay? It truly doesn't matter what kind of knead eraser you get. It could be anything. It could be like from the dollar store. As long as you can knead, okay? As long as you can like use it as a Play-Doh and just play with it and shape it however you want. The knead eraser in combination with smudge, okay? A smudge tool. You can sharpen these with sandpaper. You don't have to get this. This came in a set, but honestly, I think some tissue paper will work. It doesn't really matter that it's in this shape. If you take a look at these are just paper, okay? You can DIY these very easily, okay? But also they don't cost a lot either in the art supply store. So whatever you do, just get something that's like this combination, because these are going to help you capture values a lot quicker. I call these drawing tools and not really, you know, erasers and things like that, because it's not really like erasing mistake, okay? You're using these two things in combination to create gradients, to create shapes, to create shades, to create really clear lines. Actually, you can use these to make really clear lines, highlights, okay? So these two in combination are great. You can use them also with graphite, with pencils. It's probably one of the most expensive pencils. Or you can use them with these pigment-based colored lead. They work great with either or. Okay, so the next one is a fun one. I think people who are like never went to art school probably don't know what these are. These are called viewfinders, okay? So the ones I have are fairly beat up, okay? Like they're kind of dirty and whatnot. And I got these a long time ago. I again probably got them as a set. Are these identical? Yeah, they are identical. So what do you use these for? Typically you would use these when you go out to do a sketch session, but you could also just use this on reference photos, just like to try out different combinations. So the way you would use this is when you're outside, just imagine this is like some kind of like drawing, and then you're using this to find the perfect spot with the right composition, okay? It's a composition tool. And it's more important when you're outside because there's so much noise out in the real world, right? There's so much that you want to capture. When you're at home and you're just looking at an apple or one face, right? There's a clear beginning and end to a face, or there's clear boundary to the shape of an apple. So that's a little bit easier to draw. But even that, when you are not putting up on like a clear table, like without any distractions in the back, right? Typically there's a lot of surrounding noise, right? And how do you figure out what is the bounding box around that? You want to know the shape of the negative space. And let me tell you, the shape of the negative space is the hardest to really understand because there's so much depth to it in the real world, right? Even when you're looking at a reference photo, the depth is really hard to visualize and understand. So when you're looking at that and you're translating that onto your little sketchbook, your drawing pad, it just becomes a lot more difficult, lot more overwhelming for your brain to translate all that information into something that's more digestible and 2D like, either lines or shapes, right? So that's what these are for. They help you understand the negative space a lot better because there is a box around that, right? So if you look at my face or my nose or look at my eye with this, it makes that drawing experience easier, okay? Trust me. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, the last one is the ability or how to learn how to reduce information better, okay? So this is already helping you to reduce. You're reducing all the noise around it, right? You're only focusing on the thing that's inside here. But the fifth tip is something that I actually learned when I was very little. I remember I attended this sketching class with a bunch of people, other students, okay, like 20, 30 students, and we were just all scattered around and looking at this plaster cast, I think is what you call them, those white clay looking things, and it was the sculpture of this bearded man. And I felt incredibly overwhelmed capturing everything. So you're supposed to, it's a drawing session of probably like an hour to 2 hours, and everyone's just standing around on their easel and trying to capture this sculpture. And this bearded man had too much hair, too much facial hair, and too much details. The little Susan was too overwhelmed, and I was borderline about to cry standing there because there's 15 minutes remaining in the class, and I know I'm not done. The whole bearded section is just empty. And I see my art teacher walking by, and I know that he was examining everyone's sketch and trying to help them out. But I feel like I was a lost cause in that moment because I'm just so far away. Like everyone else is pretty much done. There's 15 minutes left. What can I do? What help can he possibly give me? And I remember that he walked over, he saw my sketch, and he didn't really comment on the sketch, but he just looked at me and he felt the physical agony I was in, and he asked me what is wrong, right? And I said there's too much detail in the beard and I don't know how to draw that. And he gave me one tip, and that tip is to just squint your eyes. Tip was so simple, just to squint your eyes and look at the plaster cast again. And that's what I did. I squinted my eyes to look at the beard again, and all the really difficult lines and details just vanished. They were just gone. And what's left are the darkest darks and the whitest whites. And that was very easy to capture. I kind of just lumped all those details, abstracted them away, and just left with these thick strokes. And that was that. That was the end of the session. I managed to finish that sketch in that remaining 10 or 15 minutes. And that tip is still something that I use to this day. And really what squinting your eyes is trying to do there is it takes away the noise. It takes away things that are not so important to your drawing anyway. And it also takes away the more difficult colors. It helps you identify values a lot more. And it's truly just one of those best reduction techniques that there is, right? Because when you are translating what you see into a piece of paper in front of you, a lot of the things that you're trying to do is to get rid of things that are not so important, right? Sometimes it's reducing a colorful world into a two-dimensional world that's just made of just lines, right? One color, right? That's reduction. So squinting helps you go through that process for your brain a little bit easier because there's less to process on your brain. And it's not just squinting that's going to help with this. You can also do a lot of other things, right? Have you ever seen someone like painting on large scale and they're standing really far away from their drawing? Artists do that all the time. Like they keep their palette close to them, but the actual painting, they keep farther away. And that distance really helps them engage things as a whole as well. So that helps with reduction as well. Or if you are doing a reference photo, the reference photo is also further away from the artist, right? That also helps you, just that distance, right? For my daily 20-minute routine videos, my computer, my monitor is always at least a meter away. That distance builds up this visual cue for me that not everything up and close is really important. I can't even see it. If I can't see it, I definitely will not capture it. So another tip I have, or last tip when it comes to reduction, is if you're printing out a reference photo, don't make it super detailed. Actually purposefully blow it up or reduce the quality of that reference photo by half. Because that way it not only makes the colors a little bit more truer or more muted, and it also just makes the details that are not so important fade away. So that when you're looking at the reference photo again to translate that into your canvas or your sketchbook, it's a lot easier to do that anyway. There you have it, 5 things that truly makes drawing a little bit easier for me. The sketchbook I'm not afraid to ruin, the pen or pencil that feels really nice in my hand, the viewfinder, the kneaded eraser, and the shader tools that really helps understanding values a lot more and understanding how to reduce visually, squinting your eyes, all these things. So happy drawing. Hopefully you learned something from this video and this has been helpful for you too. See you in the next one.